The sound of Kevin's hand striking Michelle's cheek cut through the Summit Tech parking lot like a thunderclap, sharp enough to freeze William Matthews mid-stride toward his car. The evening sun cast long shadows across the asphalt, and William saw it happen clear as day. A man's fist connected with a young woman's face with the same casual cruelty someone might slam a car door. Her head snapped to the side, but she did not scream. She simply steadied her breathing, straightened her posture, and whispered words that turned William's blood cold. "I'm sorry, Kevin. I'll do better." William's fingers tightened around his briefcase handle before he even realized he was moving. 3 years of keeping his distance from other people's problems had taught him to mind his own business. But something about the woman's practiced submission felt familiar in a way that twisted painfully in his chest. It reminded him of someone he had already failed, someone who had chosen addiction over their family and disappeared without warning. Their eyes met across the parking lot. Her dark gaze held shame, exhaustion, and 5 long years of suffering buried deep beneath learned obedience. In that single moment, William understood that looking away was no longer an option. Whether he was ready or not, his carefully controlled life had just collided with hers, and walking away was impossible. William Matthews had not believed in saving anyone for a long time. At 35, his face carried the weight of every sleepless night since that terrible October morning when Rebecca left. One empty house, one frightened daughter asking where mommy went. One man left to pick up pieces he never broke. Now he moved through life with professional precision, pouring everything into Emma and his career while keeping his heart locked behind walls of routine and responsibility. Colleagues called him the department head with the golden touch, a man who fixed problems at work but never let anyone close enough to see his own. He had come to the parking lot thinking about picking up Emma from after-school care and what they'd have for dinner. But the sound of that slap erased every mundane thought from his mind. Beside the red SUV, Michelle Garcia crouched down, gathering the contents of her purse that had spilled across the pavement. She moved the way someone moves when they have learned that even the smallest mistake can trigger an explosion. At 28, she carried herself with the careful invisibility of prey, trying not to be noticed. Though her 5 years under Kevin's control had carved hollow shadows beneath her eyes and taught her to make herself small, her hand still reached for a silver bracelet on her wrist, the last thing her mother had given her before Michelle stopped returning calls. Kevin loomed over her like a gathering storm, his voice low and venomous enough that William caught only fragments. "Embarrassing me, ungrateful, never learn." Michelle did not answer. She reached for her scattered belongings, that bracelet catching the dying light. William started walking toward them. Before we continue with Michelle and William's story, I need to ask you something. If you've ever felt trapped, or you know someone who's living in fear, you're not alone. This story gets real, gets raw, and gets hopeful, but only if you stay to see how courage unfolds one choice at a time. Hit that like button right now if you believe healing is possible. Subscribe and turn on notifications because stories like this show the truth about survival, and second chances don't get told enough. And if this story resonates with you, share it. Someone in your life might need to hear that escape is possible and that wholeness comes after survival. Now, let's see what happens when William reaches that red SUV. William Matthews had perfected the mathematics of emotional distance over 3 years. Wake at 5:30 a.m. Coffee black, no sugar. Drive Emma to school by 7:15, kiss her forehead, watch her disappear through double doors. Arrive at Summit Tech Solutions by 7:45, always the first in his department. Work until the building emptied. Pick up Emma. Dinner. Homework. Bedtime stories where princes always save princesses and mothers never abandon their children in the middle of October without explanation. At 35, William understood that control was survival. Rebecca had taught him that lesson the morning he woke to silence and a note on the kitchen counter. "I can't do this anymore. I'm sorry." No forwarding address. No phone number. Just Emma's small voice asking when mommy would be home. And William realizing he had no answer that wouldn't break her. So he built walls. Became the department head who solved everyone's problems but shared none of his own. Roger Chin noticed over lunch one Thursday, fork pausing midair. You can't save Emma from every hurt by avoiding your own happiness. William's jaw tightened. I'm not avoiding anything. I'm protecting what matters. By refusing to let anyone matter, by refusing to bring chaos into our life again. The words came out sharper than intended. Emma's stable. I'm stable. That's enough. Roger studied him with the patience of a friend who knew when to push and when to let silence do the work. Is it? William didn't answer. He returned to his desk, checked his daughter's school pickup time again, though he had it memorized, and told himself that loneliness was just another equation he'd learned to solve. Better isolated than destroyed. Better controlled than broken. That evening, as Emma asked him to read the story about the prince who saved the princess, William felt the weight of his carefully constructed fortress pressing against his chest. He read the words, kissed her goodnight, and wondered if Roger was right. Then he told himself it didn't matter. Morning would come. The routine would hold. That was enough. It had to be. Michelle Garcia had learned to disappear in plain sight. Check phone. 8:47 a.m. Location services on. Kevin would be watching. Arrive at Summit Tech exactly 9 o'clock. Not 8:58, not 9:02. Sit at her desk in the back corner where fluorescent lights hummed their lonely song. Speak only when spoken to. Leave at 5 o'clock sharp because staying late meant questions about who she was trying to impress. At 28, Michelle had perfected the art of calculated invisibility. Long sleeves in July, heat hiding fingerprint bruises shaped like Kevin's grip. Grocery store trips timed to the minute 22 minutes for milk, bread, and eggs, because 25 meant she'd stop to talk to someone, which meant she was cheating, which meant his hand around her throat asking who was he. Who the fuck was he? She practiced breathing exercises in the bathroom. In for 4 counts when she heard his key in the lock. Hold for 7 when his voice shifted to that dangerous quiet. Out for 8 when she felt his shadow move too close too fast. Don't flinch. Flinching made it worse. Once, she'd been different. Art student with paint-stained fingers and laughter that came easy. She'd loved yellow, bright, defiant yellow. Kevin said it made her look like she was asking for attention. Now her closet held only grays and muted blues. The company photo on her desk showed a stranger. Michelle at 23, eyes bright, smile genuine. Wearing a crimson blouse she'd thrown away 2 years ago after Kevin ripped it off her shoulders, screaming about modesty. Wednesday evening, 6:03 p.m. Michelle walked toward the red SUV where Kevin waited, arms crossed, jaw tight. She was 3 minutes late. Traffic, she'd say. Just traffic. His hand moved before she finished the sentence. The slap echoed across the asphalt. Her cheek burned. Her pride died. Again. I'm sorry, Kevin. I'll do better. Across the parking lot, a man stood frozen. Their eyes met his wide with horror, hers hollow with shame and a desperate silent prayer. Please don't make this worse. Please just look away. But William Matthews didn't look away, and everything Michelle had survived to protect began to crack. William couldn't sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Michelle's face the way she'd apologized for being hit, the practiced submission of someone who'd learned that resistance cost more than compliance. Emma's voice pulled him back. Daddy, read the one about the princess. He opened the book, but the words stuck in his throat. The prince arrives just in time. The prince saves her. The prince makes everything better. Fairy tales for children who didn't know that sometimes princes watched through parking lot windows and did nothing. Daddy, why'd you stop? William closed the book gently. Sometimes, sweetheart, the bravest thing isn't fighting dragons. It's helping someone find their own sword. She looked confused. He kissed her forehead and wondered when he'd become a coward. Friday morning, Roger appeared in his doorway, holding a manila folder like evidence of collective failure. Michelle Garcia. 5 years with us. Look at this. He spread papers across William's desk. Sick days clustered around Mondays. Written complaints about a man, Kevin Garcia. Husband showing up unannounced, aggressive, demanding to see her. Passed over for 3 promotions despite performance reviews that glowed. We wanted to help, Roger said quietly. but she won't talk about it. And legally, until she asks. What if we created a reason for her to have more independence? William interrupted. Executive assistant position. My department. Significant raise. Flexible hours. Roger's eyes widened with understanding. A lifeline disguised as a promotion. Exactly. Monday afternoon, William called Michelle into his office. She entered like someone approaching a trap, shoulders curved inward, eyes on the floor. Ms. Garcia, I'm offering you a position as executive assistant. 30% salary increase. You'd report directly to me. Her hands trembled as she reached for the paperwork. Why? Because you're overqualified for data entry. And because good work should be recognized. Michelle's eyes filled with tears, and she blinked away quickly. Her signature was shaky, but it was hers. For the first time in 5 years, she'd chosen something Kevin couldn't control. She whispered, "Thank you." William nodded, throat tight. "You earned this." Outside his office, Michelle stood in the hallway holding the signed contract against her chest. A pathway, an escape route, a salary Kevin didn't control. Hope felt dangerous. But for the first time in forever, Michelle let herself feel it anyway. Michelle knew the moment she walked through the door. Kevin sat in darkness, her promotion letter on the kitchen table like an indictment. 30% raise. His voice came quiet, which was always worse than screaming. Executive assistant. To him, "Kevin, it's just work. Don't lie to me." The chair crashed backward as he stood. "You think I'm stupid? You think I don't see what you're doing? Trying to be better than me. Planning to leave. Making me look like a fool. 2 hours." He screamed about respect and loyalty and how no real man would tolerate a wife who undermined him. He smashed her phone against the wall screen spiderwebbing, her only connection to the outside world dying in pieces. He dumped her purse, rifling through receipts and lipstick and tampons looking for evidence of the affair he'd already convicted her of having. Michelle stood still, breathed, survived. When he finally exhausted himself, she cleaned up the broken phone with shaking hands and told herself this would pass. The storm always passed. Tuesday morning, she covered the split lip with concealer that didn't quite match her skin tone. At her new desk outside William's office, she kept her head down and pretended normalcy. William emerged at 10 a.m., stopped mid-stride. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Just placed a business card face down on her desk. Sarah Chun, attorney at law, domestic violence and family law specialist. "When you're ready," he said quietly. "No pressure, no judgment, just options." Michelle stared at the card like it might explode. "I don't. You don't have to explain anything." William's voice carried weight without authority. "Just know the option exists." He returned to his office before she could respond. Michelle slipped the card in her bra, the only place Kevin never looked. 1:30 p.m. The receptionist's voice crackled through the intercom. "Mr. Matthews? Kevin Garcia is here to see his wife. Says he's surprising her with lunch." William was already moving. In the lobby, Kevin played the devoted husband with a perfectly charming smile, carrying takeout bags, the picture of thoughtful romance. But his eyes tracked Michelle like a predator watching prey. "I've got this," William said, positioning himself between Kevin and the elevators. The mask cracked. Kevin's smile dissolved into something cold and venomous. He stepped close, invading space, using his stocky frame to intimidate. "Stay away from my wife." Each word dropped like a stone. "I know what you're doing." William didn't step back. "I'm giving a talented employee the recognition she deserves. If that threatens you, that says everything about you and nothing about her." Kevin's hands curled into fists. For a moment, violence hung in the air between them. Then Kevin smiled again at the dead smile of someone cataloging revenge. "This isn't over." He left, but the threat lingered like smoke in a closed room. William returned to find Michelle standing at her desk, face white, hands trembling. She didn't ask what Kevin said. She didn't need to. She'd been living with those threats for 5 years. The late nights started innocently. Project deadlines, budget reviews, presentations that needed polish. Michelle stayed because work gave her legitimate reasons to delay going home. William stayed because silence in an empty house felt heavier than paperwork. 3 weeks after Kevin's lobby confrontation, Michelle knocked on William's office door at 7:30 p.m. The Hendricks proposal needs revisions. I can stay if. Please, William said, too quickly. Then softer, I mean yes. Thank you. They worked in a comfortable quiet, broken only by keyboard clicks and occasional questions. Around 9 p.m., William ordered Chinese food. Michelle hesitated before accepting, calculating how angry Kevin would be, deciding hunger mattered more than peace. Emma's at my sister's tonight, William said, unpacking containers. Sleepover. The house feels too quiet when she's gone. Michelle understood quiet houses. How old is she? 7. She asks about her mom sometimes. William's voice carried old pain. Rebecca left 3 years ago. Addiction. I spent years trying to save her therapy, rehab, second chances, third chances. Gave up promotions to be home more. Sacrificed everything trying to fix someone who didn't want to be fixed. He looked up, meeting Michelle's eyes. The morning she left, Emma asked where Mommy was. I had no answer. Just a note on the counter saying I can't do this anymore. No forwarding address. No phone number. Just gone. Michelle's throat tightened. I'm sorry. I blame myself for years. Thought if I'd been enough a better husband, better support, better something, she would have stayed. William's hands gripped his chopsticks too tight. Roger tells me I built walls. That I'm protecting Emma by refusing to let anyone in. Maybe he's right. Silence stretched between them. Michelle set down her food, hands trembling. Kevin wasn't always. She stopped, started again. When we met, he was charming, attentive, protective. I was 23, an art student, and thought I'd found someone who saw me. Her voice dropped to barely audible. The first time he hurt me was 6 months after our wedding. Grabbed my wrist during an argument, squeezed until something cracked. I wore a brace for 2 weeks. William's jaw clenched, but he stayed quiet, letting her speak. He cried after, brought me flowers, swore it would never happen again. I believed him. Michelle's laugh came bitter and broken. Every time I believed him. The apology phase was so convincing. Roses, promises, the man I married coming back. I stayed because I thought the monster was temporary, that the real Kevin would win. When did you know? William asked gently. That he wouldn't change? Michelle's voice cracked. The day I stopped recognizing myself in the mirror. I was putting on makeup to cover a black eye, and I looked at this stranger staring back, small, afraid, apologizing for existing. I didn't know her. Tears slipped down her cheeks. I still don't know how to find the woman I used to be. William reached across the desk, stopped just short of touching her hand, close enough to offer comfort, distant enough to respect her space. That woman you don't recognize? She's still in there, Michelle. Stronger than you know. Surviving what you've survived takes more courage than most people ever find. Michelle looked at his hand, hovering near hers, the first kind gesture without demand or expectation she'd received in 5 years. For the first time since Kevin, someone spoke to her like she was a person, not a possession. She placed her hand in William's. Just for a moment. Just long enough to remember what safety felt like. Then she pulled back, wiping tears. I should go. You don't have to. I do. She managed a weak smile. But thank you for seeing me. William watched her gather her things, and something shifted between them, fragile and new, built on shared wounds and careful trust. As Michelle drove home, she touched the attorney's card, still hidden against her heart. Maybe, just maybe, the late nights started innocently. Project deadlines, budget reviews, presentations that needed polish. Michelle stayed because work gave her legitimate reasons to delay going home. William stayed because silence in an empty house felt heavier than paperwork. 3 weeks after Kevin's lobby confrontation, Michelle knocked on William's office door at 7:30 p.m. The Hendricks proposal needs revisions. I can stay if. Please, William said, too quickly. Then softer, I mean yes. Thank you. They worked in a comfortable quiet, broken only by keyboard clicks and occasional questions. Around 9 p.m., William ordered Chinese food. Michelle hesitated before accepting, calculating how angry Kevin would be, deciding hunger mattered more than peace. "Emma's at my sister's tonight," William said, unpacking containers. "Sleep over. The house feels too quiet when she's gone." Michelle understood quiet houses. "How old is she?" "7. She asks about her mom sometimes." William's voice carried old pain. "Rebecca left 3 years ago. Addiction. I spent years trying to save her, therapy, rehab, second chances, third chances. Gave up promotions to be home more. Sacrificed everything trying to fix someone who didn't want to be fixed." He looked up, meeting Michelle's eyes. "The morning she left, Emma asked where Mommy was. I had no answer. Just a note on the counter saying I can't do this anymore. No forwarding address. No phone number. Just gone." Michelle's throat tightened. "I'm sorry. I blamed myself for years. Thought if I'd been enough a better husband, better support, better something, she would have stayed." William's hands gripped his chopsticks too tight. "Roger tells me I built walls. That I'm protecting Emma by refusing to let anyone in. Maybe he's right." Silence stretched between them. Michelle set down her food, hands trembling. "Kevin wasn't always." She stopped, started again. "When we met, he was charming, attentive, protective. I was 23, an art student, and thought I'd found someone who saw me." Her voice dropped to barely audible. "The first time he hurt me was 6 months after our wedding. Grabbed my wrist during an argument, squeezed until something cracked. I wore a brace for 2 weeks." William's jaw clenched, but he stayed quiet, letting her speak. "He cried after, brought me flowers, swore it would never happen again. I believed him." Michelle's laugh came bitter and broken. "Every time I believed him. The apology phase was so convincing, roses, promises, the man I married coming back. I stayed because I thought the monster was temporary, that the real Kevin would win." "When did you know?" William asked gently. "That he wouldn't change?" Michelle's voice cracked. "The day I stopped recognizing myself in the mirror. I was putting on makeup to cover a black eye, and I looked at this stranger staring back, small, afraid, apologizing for existing. I didn't know her." Tears slipped down her cheeks. "I still don't know how to find the woman I used to be." William reached across the desk, stopped just short of touching her hand, close enough to offer comfort, distant enough to respect her space. "That woman you don't recognize? She's still in there, Michelle. Stronger than you know. Surviving what you've survived takes more courage than most people ever find." Michelle looked at his hand hovering near hers, the first kind gesture without demand or expectation she'd received in 5 years. For the first time since Kevin, someone spoke to her like she was a person, not a possession. She placed her hand in William's. Just for a moment. Just long enough to remember what safety felt like. Then she pulled back, wiping tears. "I should go." "You don't have to." "I do." She managed a weak smile. "But thank you for seeing me." William watched her gather her things, and something shifted between them, fragile and new, built on shared wounds and careful trust. As Michelle drove home, she touched the attorney's card still hidden against her heart. Maybe, just maybe, Kevin was in jail. Michelle was safe. So why couldn't she breathe? The adrenaline that had carried her through escape, the methodical planning, the silent packing, the terrifying final confrontation crashed like a wave pulling back from shore. What remained was wreckage. She couldn't sleep. Every sound became Kevin's key in the lock. Every shadow his silhouette in the doorway. She'd wake at 3 a.m. gasping, checking door locks she'd already checked 5 times, convinced he'd somehow gotten out, found her, come to finish what he'd started. At work, she was functional until she wasn't. Tuesday afternoon, someone dropped a stapler. The crack sent Michelle scrambling into the bathroom, where she locked herself in a stall, hyperventilating, counting tiles until her vision cleared. William noticed. Of course he noticed. He moved differently around her, now telegraphing his movements, keeping distance, never approaching from behind. When he needed to hand her documents, he placed them on her desk rather than reaching across. When he spoke, his voice stayed soft and even. Friday morning, he slid a business card across her desk. Dr. Patricia Martinez, trauma specialist. She has evening appointments. Michelle stared at the card. I don't need. You don't have to explain. William's eyes held understanding without pity. Just an option. And Michelle? Take whatever time you need. Flexible hours. Work from home. Whatever helps. She started therapy the following week. Dr. Martinez didn't push. Didn't demand Michelle talk about things she wasn't ready to examine. Just created space for Michelle to exist without apologizing for taking up room. 3 weeks into sessions, Michelle had a breakthrough that felt more like a breaking. She left Dr. Martinez's office shaking, tears streaming, and drove on autopilot until she found herself outside William's house. She almost left, almost drove away. Then the door opened, and a small girl with dark curls and gap-toothed smile looked up at her. Hi, are you Daddy's work friend? He talks about you sometimes. Emma. William appeared behind his daughter, surprise flickering across his face. I'm sorry, Michelle, It's okay. Michelle's voice came out steadier than she felt. Emma grabbed her hand with the unself-conscious trust of children who hadn't learned to fear. We're making cookies. Do you want to help? Daddy's really bad at decorating, but he tries super hard. William looked embarrassed. We don't have to. I'd like that, Michelle whispered. Inside, the house smelled like vanilla and warmth. Emma chattered about school and her best friend and a boy who ate paste during our class. William listened with patient attention, asking questions, laughing at her stories, wiping flour off her nose with gentle affection. Michelle watched him in his natural habitat, this careful, guarded man transformed into someone playful and present. He braided Emma's hair, badly, with uneven sections and crooked parts. He read silly voices for cookie decorating commentary. He was patient when Emma spilled sprinkles, gentle when she got frustrated with icing. This was the life Michelle wanted, not the luxury or the rescue. Just this peace, laughter, safety. A partner who chose gentleness over control. Later, as William walked her to her car under streetlights casting long shadows, Michelle stopped, turned, looked at this man who'd given her space to heal without demanding anything in return. I think I'm falling in love with you. The words escaped before she could trap them. William's expression shifted, joy and pain tangled together. He stepped closer, stopped, and maintained careful distance. Michelle. His voice carried weight. I care about you deeply, more than I probably should, but you just escaped a nightmare. You're still in the aftermath. He met her eyes with brutal honesty. I won't be the next man who tells you what you need. I won't let you trade one cage for another, even if the bars are prettier. Michelle felt the words like a slap. Then understanding bloomed, painful and necessary. You're right. Her voice cracked. I don't even know who I am yet. How can I know what I want? Exactly. William's hands flexed like he wanted to reach for her, but knew he shouldn't. You need time to become Michelle again. Not Kevin's wife. Not my anything. Just Michelle. Whoever she is. Tears blurred Michelle's vision. What if I never figure out who that is? You will. William's certainty felt like an anchor. And when you do, if you still want me, I'll be here. But you have to find yourself first. For you. Not for me. Michelle nodded, throat too tight for words. She drove home to her studio apartment with its bare walls and second-hand furniture. Sat on her thrift store couch. And for the first time since leaving Kevin, Michelle didn't cry because she was afraid. She cried because someone finally respected her enough to let her go. Monday morning, Michelle stood in William's office doorway with resolution carved into her posture. I need space. Not forever. Just time to figure out who I am without someone else defining me. William's chest tightened, but he nodded. How much time? I don't know. A year? Maybe more. Her voice wavered. I can't go from being Kevin's possession to your project. I need to stand alone first. Okay. The word cost him everything. We'll keep things professional. You take whatever time you need. Michelle's eyes filled with gratitude and grief. Thank you for understanding. Thank you for choosing yourself. The year unfolded in parallel transformations. Michelle attended therapy twice weekly. Dr. Martinez helped her untangle trauma from identity, fear from instinct. She called her parents the ones she'd stopped contacting because Kevin monitored every conversation. Her mother cried. Her father drove 8 hours to see her apartment, to hold his daughter, to apologize for not knowing. She enrolled in online classes, finished the art degree she'd abandoned, stayed up late writing papers, remembering what intellectual challenge felt like. Got promoted to project manager, earned, not given. Decorated her apartment in yellows and teals and bright, defiant reds Kevin had forbidden. Bought paint supplies. Created again. Made friends. Real friends. Women who invited her to book clubs and wine nights and didn't expect her to ask permission. Learned to trust her instincts. To say no without flinching. To take up space without apologizing. William entered therapy too. Dr. Okafor asked hard questions about savior complexes and abandonment wounds. You're trying to fix Michelle the way you couldn't fix Rebecca. But people aren't projects. He took Emma to father-daughter counseling. They processed Rebecca's absence together with Emma's confusion, William's guilt, both learning that love sometimes means letting go. Roger convinced him to try dating. 2 dinners. Both disasters. William realized he wasn't ready, but at least he'd tried. Started accepting social invitations. Built friendships beyond just Roger. Let colleagues see him as human instead of perfect. 6 months in, William sent Michelle a birthday card. Proud of you. No response needed. Michelle taped it to her fridge beside Emma's crayon drawing from months ago. The year taught them both that healing doesn't follow timelines. That true love means wanting someone's wholeness more than wanting their company. That sometimes the bravest thing isn't holding on, it's letting go long enough for both people to become who they need to be. Michelle painted. William played with Emma. Both became whole separately, so that one day, maybe they could choose each other completely. 1 year and 2 months after leaving Kevin, Michelle walked into William's office on a Friday afternoon wearing a yellow dress that blazed like sunshine. William looked up from his laptop, startled. They'd maintained polite professional distance for 14 months, cordial emails, necessary meetings, careful avoidance of anything personal. But now she stood in his doorway with confidence he'd never seen before. Posture straight, eyes clear, meeting his gaze directly. "I'm ready," she said simply. William's heart stumbled. For what? Though he knew. God, he knew. To choose. Michelle stepped inside, closed the door. Not because I need to be saved. Not because I'm grateful. Not because I'm afraid of being alone. She moved closer, each word deliberate. I'm ready because I'm whole, and I want to share my life with someone who proves he respects my autonomy more than he wants my company. William stood slowly, hands gripping his desk for balance. I've been waiting, but I need you to know I've been in therapy too. Working through my need to fix people, my fear of abandonment. His voice roughened. I can't promise I'll be perfect, Michelle. I don't need perfection. She smiled genuinely, unafraid. I need equality. The word hung between them like a vow. Equal, William repeated. Partners. Always. They began dating properly. Slow dinners where conversation flowed without fear. Coffee dates where they laughed about small things. Movie nights where comfortable silence mattered more than dialogue. They communicated boundaries with the precision of people who'd learned that assumptions destroy what silence preserves. Michelle needed advance notice before physical affection. William needed reassurance that helping didn't mean controlling. Both attended therapy independently and sometimes together, learning how 2 whole people build something stronger than either could alone. Emma was introduced gradually. Casual meetings. No pressure. No, this is Daddy's girlfriend announcements. Just Michelle occasionally joining them for park visits and ice cream, letting friendship develop naturally. 3 months into dating, Emma asked, "Do you like Michelle, Daddy?" "I do. Very much." "Me too." Emma swung on the swings, thoughtful. "She doesn't try to be mommy. She's just Michelle. Is that okay?" "Yeah." Emma jumped off mid-swing with fearless 7-year-old confidence. Michelle feels safe. 6 months later, Emma's teacher sent a note home. Career day next Friday. Students should bring someone who inspires them. Emma looked up from her homework with solemn eyes. "Can Michelle come? I want to tell everyone about the strongest person I know." William's throat tightened. "You should ask her yourself." That evening, Emma called Michelle with the careful formality of important requests. Will you come on my career day? You're the bravest person I know because you save yourself. I want to tell my class about that. Through the speaker, Michelle's voice broke. I would be honored. Career day arrived. Michelle told Emma's second-grade class about leaving dangerous situations, about therapy and healing, about becoming who you're meant to be. She spoke in age-appropriate metaphors about courage and choice. 23 7-year-olds listened with rapt attention. Afterward, Emma hugged Michelle fiercely. You're my hero. Michelle buried her face in Emma's hair and cried the good kind of tears. 2 years after that Friday afternoon in William's office, he made a decision. No surprise proposal. No public spectacle. Just an honest conversation on a quiet Tuesday evening after Emma went to bed. I talked to Emma, William said, sitting beside Michelle on the couch they'd picked out together. Asked her how she'd feel if I asked you to marry me. Michelle's breath caught. What did she say? She said you're already family, so it's really just making it official. William pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. I'm not getting on one knee. I'm not asking you to take my name or change who you are. I'm asking if you want to build a life together as equal partners. He opened the box. Inside sat a simple platinum band with 3 small stones, sapphire, emerald, diamond. Your birthstone, Emma's, and mine. 3 separate stones. 1 setting. Michelle's hands trembled as she took the ring. I have conditions. Tell me. We both keep going to therapy. We communicate even when it's hard. We make decisions together about Emma, about money, about everything. And if I ever feel like I'm losing myself again, I need you to hear me when I say I need space. Always, William promised. Anything else? Equal partners. Her voice strengthened. In everything. Forever. Equal partners, William agreed. Always. Michelle smiled through tears. Then yes. Yes, I'll marry you. They sat together in comfortable silence, foreheads touching, breathing in sync. 2 people who'd learned that love without respect was prison, but love built on mutual choice was freedom. The wedding happened 6 months later. Michelle wore red bold, defiant, beautiful red that Kevin would have forbidden. She walked down the aisle alone because no one was giving her away. She was choosing this, claiming this, owning this moment completely. William waited at the altar wearing the suit Emma had helped him pick out. His daughter stood beside him in a yellow dress that matched Michelle's flowers, holding a small sign she'd made herself. Our family chooses love. When Michelle reached them, Emma stepped forward and took both their hands with the gravity of someone performing sacred duty. Now we're all choosing each other, Emma announced to the gathered friends and family. That's how it's supposed to work. Laughter rippled through the crowd, warm, genuine, full of joy. Michelle and William exchanged vows they'd written together. Promises about partnership and respect, about choosing each other daily, about building something neither could have built alone. When the officiant said, "You may kiss," William paused, looked at Michelle with a question in his eyes. She smiled, nodded, closed the distance herself. The kiss was soft, mutual, perfect. Afterward, at the reception, Michelle's father pulled her aside. I'm so proud of you, Mija. For leaving. For healing. For choosing this. I'm proud of me too, Dad. William found them, Emma on his hip. Ready for our first dance as a family? Michelle took his free hand. Emma wiggled down to stand between them. The 3 of them moved together to music that spoke of new beginnings, not perfect, not without scars, but whole and chosen and real. Later, as guests departed and Emma slept peacefully in Michelle's childhood bedroom at her parents' house, William and Michelle stood on the venue's balcony under stars that witnessed their transformation. Are you happy? William asked quietly. Michelle considered the question. Thought about the woman who'd apologized for being hit in a parking lot 2 years ago. Thought about the journey from survival to becoming. Thought about this man who'd offered help without control, space without abandonment, love without possession. I'm whole, she said finally. And because I'm whole, I'm happy. In that order, William kissed her temple. That's all I ever wanted for you. I know. Michelle leaned into him. That's why I chose you. They stood together in comfortable silence as night deepened and the future stretched ahead, uncertain, but no longer frightening. Challenging, but no longer impossible. Because healing was possible, second chances were real, and love built on respect, rather than rescue, could transform broken lives into whole futures. Michelle had learned that freedom meant more than escaping, it meant becoming. William had learned that love meant more than protecting, it meant partnering. Together, they proved that the strongest foundations are built not on need, but on choice. Not on rescue, but on respect. Not on fear of being alone, but on joy in being together. And in that truth, they found not just happiness, but home. If Michelle and William's story moved you, I want you to know something important. This isn't just a story. This is someone's reality right now. According to the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence, 1 in 4 women and 1 in 9 men experience severe intimate partner violence. But here's what Michelle's journey teaches us. Leaving is possible. Healing is real. And you deserve a life built on respect, not fear. Now, if this story impacted you, here's how you help others find it. Smash that like button. It tells the algorithm that stories about healing matter. Subscribe and hit the bell, because I create more stories like this that show the truth about survival, strength, and second chances. Comment below. Tell me, what moment hit you hardest? Was it William's decision to intervene? Michelle's year of becoming? Or Emma's saying, now we're all choosing each other? Your comments help this video reach people who need it most. Share this video, post it to your story, send it to a friend, make it your next watch party. Michelle's story could be the catalyst someone needs to make their own choice. In my next story, we're exploring into the unbelievable. You won't want to miss it. But before you go, remember this. Freedom means more than escaping. It means becoming. You deserve to become who you were always meant to be. Thanks for being here. Thanks for caring. Thanks for choosing stories that matter. I'll see you in the next one.